Welcome to another special live edition of the Marketplace Masters, brought to you by Merchant Spring, the leading marketplace analytics platform for agencies and investors. Marketplace Masters is all about going deeper into the challenges e-commerce sellers face to broaden understanding and provide practical actions to implement. I'm your host, Paul Sonneveld, and today I am joined by Vanessa Kuykendall from MarketDefense. In today's episode, we are discussing how Amazon vendors should think about and approach transitioning from 1P to 3P. We'll get into the strategies you can adopt to ensure you have a smooth and successful transition. Vanessa is the COO of MarketDefense, a leading Amazon agency focused on the beauty category. In her 25-year history in beauty retail, Vanessa Kuykendall has led teams and driven revenue in bricks and mortar, e-commerce, and now Amazon. A founding partner at MarketDefense, Vanessa leads client delivery, where her team protects brand equity and drives profitable growth in the Amazon marketplace. Thank you for being on the show, Vanessa.
Thanks, Paul. This is great. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome, and we know that you work on this topic a lot with your clients, so we're really keen to get into it. It is certainly a big topic and certainly not straightforward. So let's jump right in and let's start the unpacking of this particular topic here. So let's start off with, why should brands think about transitioning from 1P to 3P in the first place? What is in it for them?
Yeah, it's a question we're asked often by brands. We work with mostly beauty brands, but really brands who are passionate about their brand messaging, their brand control, their pricing on Amazon. And, we would say when brands ask us, why should I consider moving from 1P to 3P? I would really roll it all up into one word, and that would be control, because you're going to have the most control over your pricing. You're going to have the most control over your messaging, the most control over your inventory in most cases. Amazon is known to maybe overbuy or let things go out of stock. So I think if a brand is really looking for control in all areas of their business, then they should really consider either starting in 3P or transitioning from 1P to 3P.
So yeah, it's all about control, pricing, your brand in particular. So that talks a little bit about the second question, which is, what are the circumstances? So if you've got a client that comes to you and say they're in 1P at that point in time, how do you assess and how do you advise them as to, is this the right time to transition? Or, are there circumstances where maybe it doesn't make sense to transition?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the brands who are often considering moving to 3P are brands who are experiencing difficulties in 1P. So it's really unpacking what those difficulties may be and whether 3P will fix those challenges for them. We talked about pricing, certainly 3P and owning your own account and setting your own price will fix those issues. But what about logistics? Are you having trouble with Amazon forecasting? Are they not being a good partner in terms of helping plan your inventory? Well, think about, do you have the ability as a brand to take that on? Will you do better than they will? Do you have the people, the expertise, maybe the software to analyze your inventory? Do you have the warehouse space to be able to move product in and out quickly? And if you don't have those things, do you have the capital or the margin to hire an agency to do all of those? So I think, if you're experiencing difficulties, identify what those difficulties are, and let's see if we can help you transition to 3P, as seamlessly as possible. And I would say, if you are set up for success for logistics, then yes, you should consider moving to 3P. If you are looking for more data, then it's not available on 1P, then absolutely it makes sense to transition to 3P, and we can talk about how you can use that data in a little bit. Also, if you have maybe private equity or other backers looking over your shoulder at your books, absolutely, it's a good opportunity to move to 3P because that makes them very happy if you're looking for an exit. Certainly, consider moving to 3P because you're going to book top line sales there. So your enterprise value goes up, your valuation could go up. I think those are the things that are top of mind for me. if you're looking to consider going 3P, those are the scenarios in which it makes a lot of sense to consider it.
Yeah, lots of what's really interesting about there are lots of different angles around why you want to transition. Clearly there's different rationale for brands throughout this particular process. You talked a lot about it's obviously being dissatisfied with maybe Amazon is managing your business and taking that in house, but then also alluding to the fact that actually does require more capability, more skills on your end, and we'll dive into that specifically a little bit later. But I want to go back to the actual process. So, for example, a brand, you've been consulting with one of your beauty brands, and they say, right, Vanessa, we want to do it. We feel it's the right thing for us. We would like to transition. What does that process look like? How do you talk to them about how long it's going to take, what's required of them? What's the picture here?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, it's changed a lot over the last couple of years. I will say that beauty brands who were in the premium beauty platform, the gated premium beauty platform, they were paying for that one for a couple of different services, but specifically that gating was the number one area of business that was a positive for them to pay the extra fees to go into Amazon. So I think, part of the process, it starts with cleaning up the distribution channel for brands. So brands really, in order to move away from a 1P gated environment, they need to be ready to take control of their distribution. So they would need to be able to be ready to have a maybe sometimes uncomfortable conversation with a distributor or with their resellers, retailers, and make sure that they understand that they, are not to be selling on Amazon. And if they ever were, maybe we're gonna leave that in the past, but you are not to sell on Amazon. We are going to be controlling our destiny on Amazon. So I think that's the first thing that needs to be happening is they need to be laying down the law across all of their channels and distributors so that they can be primed for success. And then I think the second area is they really need to be prepared with their inventory. They need to understand what their sell-through is and be sure to have their production levels appropriately in place so that we can start a transition into 3P and be assured that we will have enough inventory to set our marketing campaigns in place and be able to be successful there. And then I think, once you've got the inventory in place and once you've got an account opened, you're starting your marketing campaigns really from scratch. So there needs to be a level of off-channel marketing to help give your brands a little bit of momentum or push as we work within Amazon to get that going. So I think it's a partnership moving from 1P to 3P. It's tough for brands to do it on their own. I would certainly suggest an agency, but be ready to do your part. And your part is making sure that your distribution is clean, making sure you've got the inventory in place, and making sure you are going to be investing in your marketing to get your business up and going in your own account.
Certainly not for the faint-hearted, and certainly not something that can be achieved over the course of a weekend by the sounds of it. Which gets us onto the timing question. I mean, how do you manage clients' expectations? Typically, certainly in my experience, clients want, they want to, once they sort of align on the strategy, they want to implement and go. How do you manage their expectations, and what is a typical sort of time frame you give them to manage those expectations?
Yeah, I think you can open an account and have all your content and creative, all your listings completed, and have inventory in place within a month to 2 months. I think really where there has to be some expectations that are, you have to consider the fact that your marketing is going to ramp up. Of course, your reviews are going to come with you. They follow the ASIN, but you're really starting your campaigns from scratch. So I think that's where the setting of expectations needs to be clear. I think where they can start to see, an exceptional amount of control right away, I think always gives them some comfort because, what they were looking to achieve, which is price control, it's going to start right from the beginning. You own the pricing. You don't have to worry about Amazon price matching others in the marketplace. You don't have to be concerned that on a Prime Day that they might decide to take your category at 30% off and not let you know. And so you're unaware and your other partners are calling you and saying, why are you 30% off on Amazon? You never told me that was going to happen. And then you have to say, well, actually, I didn't know that was going to happen. So I think the benefits of control outweigh the really detailed surgical things that we have to do to make it positive and successful for the brand. So again, just setting the expectation that you're going to have to be really detailed here, really diligent, but the benefits will pay off in a big way for you.
I want to follow up on one of the points you made earlier around the fact that your reviews come with you, and obviously the ASINs. What are the assets that do come across? What are the things that you can actually take with you, or you can enjoy the benefits of some of the hard work you've done on the vendor side, and which elements you basically starting from scratch again? What are the two categories there?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for looking at things with fresh eyes. So though you do take a lot of the content that you've already created and just drop it into a new template, I always advise brands to really look at things in a new way, because you are, again, you're building an account that's going to be managed by you, or hopefully, an agency or a partner. You're creating the customer experience. You are now possibly more transparent, with brand registry, and there's other new tools in 3P in the seller environment that allow you to tell your story so richly now in a storefront. So take advantage of that. Your at least in premium beauty, the listing looks very different. Your PDP looks very different. So you have the ability to add more images, some video, new modules, maybe comparison modules. So I tell brands, take this opportunity, if you're going to make that shift, to really take the investment of time and energy to look at your content and creative, and how are you messaging? Are you being transparent? Because brands really need to share who they are. They need to share their value system, who's behind the curtain. Consumers want to know who they're buying from, want to know if you're invested in a philanthropy, want to know if you are what type of a business you might be, how you treat your employees even. So I think all those things. Take the time and the moment to relook at all your assets before you drop them into your new seller template, and make sure that they really speak to your brand.
Yeah, that's certainly in the beauty category. That's very, very important. Now, we've spoken about the ideal process and how everything works and the benefits, but for sure, sometimes things go wrong, right? And I'd love to know, in your experience, what are the things that brands get wrong? What are the pitfalls? We used to call them like pitfalls or banana skins. Where do people slip up? What are the things that you've seen that others should seek to avoid?
Yeah, I think there was a time where doing things kind of under the radar without letting your vendor manager or others involved in your business on the 1P side made sense. I think from the agency standpoint, we always do things within Amazon's terms of service. We would never, expect a brand to do anything that goes against their agreements with Amazon. So I think, trying to do something without clear guidance from your agency partner, or even from outside consultants, of which there are many reputable consultants who can share some guidance on how to make a transition if you're choosing to do it on your own. I think that's a pitfall, is trying to do things without being straightforward or clear. Amazon will find out. They might block you from certain areas of business. You might even be told that you can't sell your own product because of the way that you went about it, and that you are being how should we say, strongly advised to only sell through 1P or through Amazon. So I think there are things you want to avoid, trying to appear as though you're trying to circumvent Amazon's terms of service. I think that's a big one. And then I think brands forget that they're going to have people in place in their own offices to accept POs, manage the flow of inventory, that they're going to have to manage their own marketing. These are the kind of things that they might believe that won't be as important. I think those are pitfalls. And then certainly we've talked about inventory a lot, and everybody knows that going out of stock is the kiss of death. And I think that's a pitfall that we've experienced, is that brands believe they're ready. But if done well, your sell-through should accelerate. And if you don't have the inventory in place to benefit from that sales acceleration, of course, you're not going to reap the benefits.
Yeah, you mentioned there actually, managing the Amazon relationship, and this is something that I always hear around, this fear about not trying to stay on Amazon's good side, trying to maintain a good relationship, and certainly I've seen a number of examples where that didn't go very well. Some of the things that you mentioned around being strongly discouraged. I would say in some instances, would be more than just words. In terms of not being able to sell there. Yeah. So what advice do you have? I mean, how do you manage the relationship, particularly with your Amazon vendor manager? How do you keep them happy, make sure they're cooperative? What advice do you have on that front?
I think we've always been, we've also sometimes been a little bit suspicious of Amazon, and certainly of their gated programs, and their actual interest in serving the brands. I think we all know that Amazon is there to serve customers and not necessarily the interest of brands. So I think you really have to be your own advocate. And I would say that you want an open line of communication, but you also want to have very clear asks of your vendor management group. If you were to move to 3P, you don't have to worry about that so much. You're going to be your own seller and you can handle it yourself. But if you're going to continue a 1P relationship, or maybe you're going to go into like a 3P premium beauty relationship where you're still going to be managing most of your business, but they're going to have a little bit of a hand in the brand protection, possibly in the gating. Again, you need to be the master of your own destiny there. So you need to come in with specific asks. You need to look for specific placements on Amazon and say, look, I see a competitive brand in spot X. I want spot X. What do I need to do to be there? Look, I see that there is a brand whose rankings we're a little bit, we're better than this competitor, and yet I don't see that we're included in program Y or program Z. So I think you need to be very specific. And be your best advocate and walk in with a list of asks. Because if you are in a vendor management relationship, they are there to help grow your business. And if you know that there are certain areas that they're missing, then it's on you to be be an advocate for your business.
That's sounds like it all comes down to relationship and holding to account, right, in a transparent and a clear way.
Absolutely.
I want to change stack and cover something that I know you don't have that much time, but I really want to try and squeeze it in, which is this concept of a hybrid relationship with Amazon. Having both a seller and a vendor account. I've sometimes heard this concept used in the context of a transition, so it's only ever a temporary thing. But for other sellers, it's more of a permanent arrangement. How do you look at the hybrid model with Amazon?
It's so interesting. I think there was certainly a lot of conversation, pre-pandemic, where Amazon was really coming in and being very strong-arming brands and shutting down, hybrid scenarios. They really were not. They didn't care for that. They didn't want it, and they were fairly clear. I think we've seen less of that conversation, at least in the last 6 months to a year. I think we've seen that Amazon has maybe they've seen that there is an opportunity for brands to support the vendor relationship within having a seller account that sells similar product or maybe even the same, because it can help with keeping products in stock, keeping the customer happy. And of course, Amazon wants to keep customers happy and returning. So we've actually seen less of a focus on a negative view of hybrids, and we've seen a little bit more of kind of leaving brands alone in this area. Is that going to change again? Who knows? We all know Amazon changes their mind quite often, so they might view it differently. But I think right now, if a brand were in a hybrid model, I would say hold tight, and if it's not broken, don't fix it, and let's see what happens in the future.
Yeah, certainly it still seems to be, in fact, we have a number of customers on our platform that they really like to see their vendor and their seller accounts together. And it certainly feels like something that's here to stay for certainly in Europe and North America. Mm-hmm. Now, we do have a couple of questions from our audience as well. But before we go there, I want to just come back to another topic we spoke about earlier, which was this idea of skills. You mentioned before you need to have someone in the office to accept POs, to do marketing and all of that. What if you were to say, what are the top 3 skills that a brand is going to have to either acquire or outsource or somehow get their hands on in order to run a successful seller account, and maybe skills that they didn't require under the vendor model? What were those top 3? I'm deliberately saying top 3. I'm sure it's more like 10. But what are the top 3 in your mind if they were going to invest in acquiring top 3 skills? What 3 skills would they be?
I think the number one is always logistics, because it is such a headache for brands, and it really can cause so many issues and problems for you and for your customer if your product isn't in stock and isn't handled well within the FBA pipeline. So I'd say invest in a logistics partner if you don't have a logistics team in-house. If you have a logistics team in-house, make sure that they are keeping up with all areas of Amazon. Make sure that you have a warehouse that is Amazon enabled or educated. At MarketDefense, we have a warehouse that we've got a few, but there was one warehouse partner that we taught them ourselves from scratch several years ago, and they have an incredible team that was really willing to learn and understand what it was like to sell prestige beauty on Amazon. But I think you have to be able to treat your product, not just gingerly be in 100% compliance with Amazon, but also have capabilities like bundling and others, so that you can serve your sales team as best as possible. If they want to, investigate whether or not this product should be kitted together, you want to have a logistics and warehousing team who can help you enable those things for future assortment growth. So I think logistics is always important in terms of actual product handling. But I also think just being on top of your inventory, making sure that you understand what your sell-through rate is, and that you are applying the intelligence that you have, software intelligence that's available. I think there's lots of ways to make logistics almost seamless, but it takes a lot of work. And I think, I would say that's the number one thing to look at. And then, of course, account management, making sure you've got a team who can be responsive to customers if you're doing FBM and other areas of business. And then I think marketing. A lot of people look to outside marketing agencies to do all the work. And so brands become a little bit hands-off in the 3P environment, and they really do need to be their champion. They need to manage their off-channel traffic drivers. They need to be visible in social or other channels. So I think there's a lot of areas of marketing where brands can be really hands-on. They may be not pulling the levers in PPC themselves, but they're certainly going to be an exemplary partner to a marketing agency.
It's a great summary, Vanessa. Thank you for that. Now, we are running short on time, but I'm going to try and see if I can bring up a couple of questions from our live audience. So we actually have a lot. So apologies for those of you tuning in. We won't be able to get to all of them, but it's good to see some of the participants are starting to, answer questions that other people are asking, which is great. Great to see that community piece going on. I want to talk or raise a question here raised by Jamie, if we can see that. So Jamie is asking, could you provide some details around how 1P brands have successfully approached exiting their master agreement with Amazon before opening their own 3P business? What are your thoughts on that, Vanessa?
Yes, it's a good question. We have helped brands negotiate this many, many, many times. I think there is maybe an idea or a thought out there that brands can never exit, or if they do, that there is a certain time frame that they can no longer, that they can't sell their own product on. And what we have found is actually they can exit their 1P agreement, but that there is a time frame before they would be allowed back into a 1P relationship, or that they might have access to certain programs that wouldn't be available to them for a certain time frame. We've seen it be a year to 18 months. And so as long as a brand is very clear that there's an 18-month period there where really you're on your own from Amazon's point of view, you should be able to navigate yourself out of that relationship. Again, you have to be I hope you have been a good partner in the past to Amazon. I hope you have not done anything that outside of their terms of service, or that they might feel is in some way out of their terms of service. And if so, we can help guide a brand through that, because we've done that too. But I think if you've been an above board seller or vendor for Amazon, then you should be able to exit your relationship, and just know that there might be 18 months there that you won't be able to reach back out for additional help. But I think for all the things we've talked about today, if you've laid a good foundation, you won't need to call them.
Thank you, Vanessa. I'm going to try and squeeze in one more question here from Michelle. So Michelle's asking, what are some recommendations or examples of off-market ad campaigns that brands can utilize when launching new products on Amazon? So I'm assuming, around as you transition from 1P to 3P, how do you build momentum from an advertising point of view, particularly off Amazon?
Yeah, I think people really do need to look at their page social, and I know Michelle's has that top of mind as well. There is absolutely a direct line from TikTok to Amazon. You can see it in the top 25 beauty products on Amazon. I write an article for Beauty Matter every quarter looking at the top 25, and for the last 4 quarters now, it has been a direct correlation to what's happening on TikTok, what's big there. So I think exploring social channels where people are having conversations about product is necessary. If when we're going to invest in TikTok, certainly looking at partnering with content creators. Consumers are not as they don't respond as well to brand created content on TikTok as they do to user created content and maybe content creators. I think there's a significant shift from Instagram and the Facebook properties to TikTok. So I would encourage brands to look to see where the conversations are being had about product and position yourself in that area. And for me right now, it's TikTok.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vanessa. We are about to hit 30 minutes, which feels like a good amount of time for our webinar this morning. Before we go and I do my outro, I wanted to ask one last question, which is, I'm a brand. This week, I've woken up and I said, right, that's it. I'm going to transition from 1P to 3P, right? What are the 1 or 2 questions you would want to leave with those brands? Obviously, you'd want them to pick up the phone and ring you and get your help. But other than that, I'd say before you jump into that, what are some practical tips you want to leave with them to consider this week?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think, I would ask you to really consider what's going on in your marketplace. And by that, I mean where you're being sold, and look at your go-to-market strategy. Make sure that you are not partnering with individuals who don't respect your price, because I think most of the brands we're talking about today are looking for, MSRP, or at least some kind of a MAP policy. So make sure that you're in cahoots with the right partners, because you will be controlling your price on Amazon, and you want to make sure that you are the price leader on Amazon. So I would say that's one tip for you. And I would also think, consider that you may want to look into your international distribution chain and who you're partnering with there, because I can tell you as a brand protection team that probably 75% of the rogue reselling we see on Amazon is coming from international distributors. So I think if you're planning to control your destiny on 3P, start looking around at who you're selling to and really investigate if they're the right partner for you.
Well, I think we're out of time, everyone. So let's wrap it up there. Vanessa, thank you for coming on the show today. We certainly appreciate the expertise and your generosity that you brought to the table here. Transitioning a business from 1P to 3P can be a pretty daunting exercise, and you have certainly helped us demystify the topic. And thank you for providing so many practical tips along the way as well. For viewers that are interested in exploring your services, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yes, I'd love to speak to any of your listeners and give them 30 minutes of my time. Happy to talk to those who reach out to me. You can reach me at vanessa@marketdefense.com.
Thank you, Vanessa. And that is it for this week's episode of Marketplace Masters. Don't forget to join us next week for another special Amazon Vendor Edition. Thank you all for listening, and have a great day.